Welcome back. Voters across Russia are casting their ballots on the second day of an election that will formalise 6 more years in the Kremlin for Vladimir Putin. All of Putin's serious opponents are dead, in prison or in exile. But there have been pockets of unrest, with some ballot boxes set on fire or covered in paint. Well, we can speak now to Mark Voyger, Director of the Master's Programme in Global Management at the American University Kyiv, and also former Special Advisor for Russian and Eurasian Affairs to the Commanding General of the US Army Europe. Very long titles that you've got there, Mark, but always good to see you on the programme. To the extent that Putin will wish for this to be seen as a renewed mandate, what do you think he's going to do with it?
Well, Putin is using elections, not only this one, but all the previous elections that he has, of course, handily won, to rubber stamp the control of his regime, the grip that his regime has on Russia, really. He's very much obsessed with the quasi-legality, the appearance of legality of this process. He wants to show to the population that there has been some modicum of democratic choice, which of course is ridiculous, as we know. But for the propaganda purposes of the Kremlin, that works well. So what he's gonna try to do with this is, having had his next 6 years secured in his mind, he will definitely try to weather this coming year. Especially in the battle, the battle front lines in Ukraine, but also domestically, he needs to suppress dissent, continue suppressing dissent. He needs to continue the appearance that Russia is winning or will win in Ukraine, and ultimately.
And so you're speaking really of a status quo for this year because you think he's banking on a different president in the White House come January 2025.
Absolutely. I think his political horizon here is really the next 10 months when he really counts on Trump returning to the White House and then supposedly, presumably, reducing the aid to Ukraine, maybe tampering with America's NATO's commitments, the European defense arrangements, etc. And so really these coming 10 months, less than a year, are critical for Putin to, as I said, preserve control at home, keep this momentum in Ukraine, and ultimately show the Russian people that he is able to provide both guns and butter. That is, that the economy is still going on thanks to the massive military spending. Obviously the sale of energy resources to China, India, and across the global South, and ultimately hoping that the political situation in the West would facilitate his long-term strategic goals vis-a-vis Ukraine.
Yeah, OK. So that's certainly going to be something to watch. My previous guest on the Russian elections was suggesting that she thought that about a year ago, Putin's tenure, his grip on power, looked a little bit more tenuous because the elites in Russia were starting to question his leadership and perhaps thinking about ways in which a succession could be brought forward. But then Prigozhin's plane was shot down and everything seemed to change. Would you agree with that characterization of his grip on power?
Well, last year, definitely, with Prigozhin's mutiny coup attempt, definitely Putin's power looked shaken, and he didn't have the air of invincibility that he likes to portray. Nowadays, at this point, he seems to have managed to control this, damage that was that his system has sustained. He has taken over the Prigozhin's assets, especially those in Africa, but also domestically. He has been able to control those units. The question is, such attempts, such force majeure, so to speak, will continue happening in some way or form. I mean, even as we speak, there has been an ongoing penetration of the Russian border near Belgorod, and the Russian Liberation Army is trying to get a hold, establish a foothold. So the game is not over yet. But at this point, Putin's power seems more, I would say, not secure in the long run, but definitely in the coming months, it seems that at least he thinks that the regime is sufficiently stable.
Similar to how President Putin will be viewing the next sort of 9 months as time where he may be trying to keep a status quo to see what happens in America. What do you think Western powers should or could be doing in the meantime? Or do you worry that perhaps they'll be so distracted by their own domestic politics that there won't be any planning about what to do about this pretty big problem?
Well, they will be distracted for sure. They already are, but we absolutely must pull our act together and ultimately challenge the center of gravity of Putin's regime is the stability of the regime. And as I said, the economic stability is of primary importance. We need to curb the sale of Russian energy resources. We, the West, must stop buying Russian oil and gas, at least reduce to the extent possible this massive flow of hundreds of billions of dollars into the Russian coffers. That's what's keeping him afloat, really. And so the sanctions must be tightened. I mean, there are many mechanisms. We need to find a way to penetrate the information curtain of the Kremlin has imposed over its population and tell them the truth. And of course, the ethnic card. There's always potential for ethnic discontent, especially given that the Kremlin has been recruiting heavily the disenfranchised populations in Siberia, in the Caucasus. So these people must have a voice, and the West must do more to support their free will ultimately when it happens.
Mark Voyger, good to talk to you this morning on Sky News. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.